members, and welcome to the first Dingwall and Seaforth Area Committee. I hope it's the first of many and you find it productive. We have no apologies for absence. That's item number 1 on the agenda. So if I can move please to item number 2, which is declarations of interest. Do any of the members have any declarations of interest?
No.
Okay, if we can move on to item number 3, which is recessed powers, and the committee is asked to note that the recessed powers granted by the council at its meeting on the 30th of June did not require to be exercised in relation to the business of the Dingwall and Seaforth Committee. Noted?
That's good.
Okay, now we come on to the appointment of chair of the Dingwall and Seaforth Committee. Can I have any nominations, please?
Yes, I would like, thank you very much. And I hope that the Dingwall and Seaforth chair will be very successful as well. Thank you, Jane. I would like to nominate Graham Mackenzie as chair of Dingwall and Seaforth Committee.
Do you have a seconder? Mr. Kennedy?
I'm more than happy to second that.
Now I'll just have to go through the formalities. Is there any other nominations? No. Okay, Mr. Mackenzie, would you like to take the chair, please?
Congratulations, Graham.
Thank you. I'd be honoured to do that and thank the members for their support. I'm happy to be able to continue where we left off in the last council. I think that in a short time that we were able to work as 4 members, that we worked well together and achieved some success, and I look forward to that continuing. Okay, will I just carry on, Jane? Oh, she's gone.
No, yes, please do carry on.
Yes. So we have the appointment of Vice Chair of Dingwall and Seaforth Committee and Civic Leader, and I would like to propose Margaret Patterson for that. And Angela.
Councillor Mackenzie, your microphone is off.
Oh, beg your pardon, that's a good start. We're at agenda item 5, appointment of Vice Chair of Dingwall and Seaforth Committee and Civic Leader, and I would be happy to nominate Margaret Patterson for that role. And Angela is indicating her second thing. Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
I think Margaret has done a really good job over the years, and she knows all the organisations, or just about most of them in our ward, and I think that is a very good appointment, and happy to second.
Thank you. Are there any other nominations? No, in that case, congratulations, Margaret, and I agree with Angela. You've done a super job in the past and will continue to do so in the future.
Well, thank you very much, and I'm delighted to accept it. And thank you very much, Graham and Angela. And
Okay.
Sean, I'm sure he wants me to be with as well.
Okay. Moving on, we come to agenda item 6, which is the police area performance summary. I know Richard was having some trouble. Have you managed to get in now, Richard? This is Inspector Richard Ross. Are you there, Richard? Okay, members, it would appear that Richard has not been able to join the meeting as yet. Yes, Jane.
So sorry, Chairman, I was just going to say probably what you were about to say is we could just defer that and see if he joins later.
Move on and hope he can join us before we get to the end. Okay, agenda item number 7, Dingwall and Seaforth Ward discretionary budget applications approved since the 1st of April 2022. Di?
Morning, members. The applications approved since April 2022 were Headway Highland to support vulnerable adults, £71.43. Dingwall Players Summer Arts Festival, £1,500, and the Black Isle Farmers Society category sponsorship, £500. Thank you, Chair.
Are we happy to approve all of those, members? Thank you.
Agreed, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
agreed.
Agenda item 8 comes back to Diane. It's a common good fund for Dingwall.
The recommendation for the Common Good Fund in report is members are asked to note and scrutinise the position of the Dingwall Common Good Fund as shown in the 2022-23 Q1 monitoring statement, which is in front of you, along with the appendix, which shows the income and expenditure for that period.
Thanks, Di. Members, are there any questions relating to this item on the agenda? Are we happy to approve?
Yes, a very good report. Thank you.
Thank you. Approved. Agenda item 9. Development infrastructure Dingwall update. Now, I'm not sure if there's anyone on here who intends to present this. Mark, we had some discussion about this report before we came online. We're deeply I think I speak for all 4 of us. We're deeply unhappy with it. We had no notion that this was going to come to us as papers for this committee. No forward mentions, no consultation. It would appear that whoever has written this report has no knowledge of the history of the police-based traffic calming measures that were put in place over the last 2 years. In fact, it mentions them that they've been rolled out across Dingwall, but makes no mention of the fact that due to public opposition, they were then rolled back in again. And it looks through this report that they intend to initiate a consultation. Well, no, sorry, they initiate a scheme which reintroduces traffic calming and speed limits without us knowing what they are, where they're intended to go. And a further worrying case is that they say within the report that there is no need to go to public consultation. Now, anybody that's been in Dingwall over the last wee while will know that is the last thing we need, and that the public, and in particular the Community Council, would need to be involved in all of this. So, in the light of all I've said there, and I'm sure others will have more to say, I would propose that we defer this item until we know much more about it. Councillor Patterson, Margaret.
Yes, thank you very much, Graham. Yes, I 100% agree with you. I've written down all notes here, what you've actually said. I've never met Gary Smith, but obviously he does not know the area, and he has not spoken to us, or we could have told him, you know, this is utterly ridiculous. So I am absolutely against it, and deferral is the only option that we have. Thank you.
Any other members wish to comment on this? Angela?
Sorry, Chair, I'm going back and forth between the agenda and I sometimes get mixed up. Yeah, we are, as members, aware of some of what's in this report because it's been brought up by Housing Development as well. But there's a number of points in the report that even at the last Dingwall Community Council were raised, and some reassurance is given, and this report doesn't seem to align with what we've been discussing. So I do agree with my fellow ward members that perhaps if we had been advised or had a pre-meeting regarding this very important report that has a major impact on the town of Dingwall, we could have had a discussion and maybe clarified some of the outstanding points. I don't know if the report is here today because after we have made a decision, it then goes to environment and infrastructure, and so this might have an impact on especially the extra houses that are being proposed. So it would be useful if, once we've deferred this today, which I think is what we are going to be looking at, that we do have a conversation with the relevant officers so that we are clear, because the public will come to us and ask, why what, you know, what is the background? Why have we approved this without even a consultation? So I accept the Inner Firth Local Development Plan updated has been consulted on, and we're in the final stages of that. But this has come to us, even though it's our first area committee, we've had a couple of ward business meetings, and I feel that it should have come there first before coming to this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Angela. I think that's the point, Mark. Not only is the report here, but there's no one here to present it or give it any introduction. And we tried to contact Gary Smith this morning to be told that he's on 2 weeks leave. So it's an unsatisfactory position for us to be in. And I know you want to come in, so on you go.
Thank you, Chair. It is slightly surprising, I have to choose my words carefully, that there is nobody here to present this report this morning. And I would ordinarily have expected that there would be some engagement with members in advance of paper being issued, given the nature of the content of the paper and indeed what members are asked to note and indeed approve in relation to section 2. I will take that offline and have a discussion with the appropriate ECO. Things do happen sometimes. People need to take leave at short notice, but there are other people who could attend and speak to a report if necessary. And I think the key point, I think both yourself, Margaret, and Graham made it, Angela as well, I think in passing, is that it would have been more appropriate perhaps to have had a discussion in a ward business meeting setting where you can sort of get tore into the ins and outs in private, and that can then inform papers coming forward for discussion in a more formal meeting. So I took a note of Graham's observations. I think they are perfectly reasonable in the context of that. I will try and find out what's happened and why and come back to you separate to this meeting, Chair, if that's okay, just to give you an update on, frankly, what the crack is and how what has happened, and what steps we're taking to move that forward. In that context, I would support the suggestion that it be deferred. I think that's the most appropriate decision in this circumstance, but clearly that's not a decision for me to take. That's for you as members, but that would make sense to me. Thank you, Chair. You're in mute, Graham, I think, still.
I beg your pardon. Jane, are you comfortable with that? Is that something you can arrange for us?
Certainly, Chair. If that's the will of the committee, we'll certainly defer that, and that will be noted in the minutes and the action sheet.
I think you can say it is unanimous. Yep. Yep.
Agreed.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. I wonder if Richard is with us.
Richard is still trying to get on, Chair.
Well, the trouble is that we're very nearly at the end of the agenda.
Yes, he's been in touch again and he's rebooted his machine, but he's continued to have IT problems. I think it's on our side of the house.
Is he in the police station?
He is in the police station.
Could you not just pop round?
I can try. I'll go offline.
Mark, I think this is certainly something I have had views on. I very much feel we should have been back in the chamber for this meeting today. I don't know why we're not.
Well, half of the committee is.
and what is happening here exemplifies that. And I'd like, if you could take note, Mark and Jane, that, you know, I think again unanimously we would want to be back in the chamber for the next one.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely.
Chair, there's nothing stopping us do that. In fact, I was out on a wee tour of Maryborough and Dingwall a couple of weeks back with Councillor McLean, so there's absolutely nothing stopping us do that, and I think we both survived that in one piece. So, you know, that would be fine with me. There's nothing stopping us doing that. If that's everybody's wish, that's totally fine with me.
You're on mute there, Graham.
You're on mute, Graham.
Gonna have to get a hang of this. Apparently,
No,
Richard
you
Ross.
won't. We'll be in the chamber from now on.
Apparently, Richard Ross is hot foot from the police station towards us. So we will just deal with the remaining items on the agenda and hope that you can join us. Winter maintenance, agenda item 10, winter service plan for 2022-23. Is Ian with us this morning?
Yes, good morning, councillors.
Good morning, Ian.
Good morning. I'll maybe very quickly take you through the report. Councillor Kennedy, I appreciate this is your first winter committee report. For the remaining councillors, it's the same as previous years. So without further ado, we have a winter treatment policy which is approved by HQ committee, and that's to ensure that all the areas receive the same winter treatment across the Highland Council. This establishes the level of service to be provided. But we also have an area winter plan, and that's what we have today. This sets out how we deliver winter maintenance in Ross and Cromarty and in particular Dingwall and Seaforth, and how it requires the committee approval. So within Dingwall and Seaforth, we've got in the order of 128 kilometres of road, and clearly even at 128 kilometres, we can't treat everything all at the same time. So we have a system of priorities. Our primary routes for winter are our strategic roads. These are typically A-class roads or maybe some B-class roads. We then have secondary roads, which covers the service and the school bus roads. And then we have other roads. These are basically the remainder of the network. Winter treatment generally consists of maybe 10, 20 and 40 grams per square metre of salt. 10 grams per square metre is for frost, 20 is for ice and maybe a bit of snow, and 40 grams per square metre is for heavy snow, although this might be split up into multiple runs. It depends on the length of the route and how much each gritter can carry. So in terms of treatment times, again, the winter treatment policy says that Mondays to Fridays, primaries should be treated by 8:30, secondaries by 9 o'clock, and others as resources permit. At the weekends, primaries again are treated by 8:30, and secondary and others as resources permit. Across Ross and Cromarty, we have split our winter operations into two winter groups, east and west. We've looked at this for several years, and the whole of Ross and Cromarty is too big an area for one duty officer to manage. So we split it into two. Essentially, it's Ward 5 in the west is separate, and Wards 8, 9, 6 and 7 is in the east. Each area has their own duty officer. Each group is independent but can assist the other, and quite often we do. Dingwall and Seaforth, as you probably imagine, is part of the east group. At noon each day, the duty officer checks the forecast and makes a decision to either treat all or some of the routes and the level of treatment, whether it's maybe 20 grams with blades fitted for snow or maybe 10 grams without blades. This information is passed to the foreman and depots, who organises the drivers and gritters. We undertake evening treatments that night and morning treatments the next day as appropriate. We also receive a forecast update in the evening and in the morning, which is used to either confirm or amend our actions. And on top of all of this, we still have our ice alert sensors in the roads recording information such as temperature, presence of salt on the sensor, and moisture. In the mornings, if the temperature rises quicker than expected, the gritters can be recalled to the depot, because clearly, if the ice is melted, there's no point treating the road. As I said earlier, both the East and the West group have their own duty officer. The Dingwall and Seaforth is serviced from our Greenhill depot near Tor, and there's 6 gritters covering the Dingwall and Seaforth area. So in conclusion, I hope this gives you a wee summary of our winter operations, and I'd ask members to approve the winter service plan for Dingwall and Seaforth, but I'd be happy to take it to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Ian. Members, any questions? Angela?
Sorry, yeah, thank you. I mean, I know that it's dependent on, the policy is dependent on the number of officers you have as well and able to do the work. In the report, I think it's 11.3 near the end. I'm okay with the report. The grip bins, and you say at one of the points, as resources allow. Is this when you would normally fill the grip bins, Ian? You know, as we get to end of August, beginning of September, when would you fill them? Most of them are okay, but some perhaps need some filling, and I've had some requests for new grip bins. If the community want to ask, do they just put in a request? Because you talk about the winter resilience and getting more communities involved. Can you maybe expand a little bit on that for Councillor Kennedy, what some community councils are doing to help? Thank you.
Chair, shall I answer this question just now, or shall I take all the questions and answer them at the end? Or
Yeah, just go ahead and answer that one, Ian. That'll be fine, thanks.
okay, yeah. Okay, Councillor McLean. Yes, it is dependent on how many operatives we have, but we do pull in from amenities as well, and streets. So, for instance, like the grip bins, it's probably a bit early to be filling grip bins just now, but we'd probably want them at least filled for the start of winter, which officially starts mid-October. You know, new requests for grip bins, we'll take those, and we'll have a look. There is a criteria for them, but I am kind of relaxed. I mean, we don't live in a black and white world, so we've got to apply a bit of judgment to it. In terms of community resilience, this is something which we've seen take off in the last few years. Any applications can be made to myself or through yourself, councillors, and forwarded to myself. Essentially, we have a point of contact within each group. Everybody's their names, their contact details are taken, and we provide them with basic equipment, basic PPE, jacket, gloves, etc., a snow scraper, that sort of type of equipment. They're certainly not going to be operating any plant, but they can have a push spreader spreading salt on the footway. All their operations would be covered under our insurance scheme, so we're not asking people to go out and work maybe in an ad hoc fashion. It is controlled by our duty officers as well, and any requests for additional materials such as salt, etc., is managed that way. It's a top-up measure, but it can be very effective because, as you can imagine, we're never going to be able to treat all the footways, especially in residential areas, especially where maybe some of them have got steps and we can't get our footpath tractors up them. But community resilience, it means that we can try and treat some of the critical areas in our infrastructure, which really make a difference to just the residents. So I'd be pleased to sort of like just to actually take any requests just to join that side of the operation.
Okay, that fine, Angela? Okay, thanks, Ian. Margaret?
Yes, thank you very much, Graham. Yeah, I was going to ask about the salt bins as well, the gritting. It's a good report, and I'm happy to agree the winter service plan, even although I know that people's expectations are higher than what we can afford. But we get that every year, and we just have to take it in the chin and hope that we don't have too severe a winter. But it's a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Margaret. Sean?
Yeah, I hardly heard it.
I think you've frozen,
You've frozen,
Sean.
Done. Yeah, it's got to be done face to face.
I don't know how much of that you got. Sean seemed to freeze up halfway through there. What he was saying basically was that due to technical difficulties, he's been unable to hear much of what Ian had said, but he does know that Ian is the person to go to if he has concerns. But he also says, excuse me, he also says it just exemplifies the need for us to get back into the chamber as quickly as possible. Okay, members, if that's it, then I'll ask you to approve the winter service plan.
Agree.
And we'll move on. Now,
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, councillors.
thanks, Ian. Cheers.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Moving on then, we are back the way. And we now have the area performance summary. And Richard Ross is now sitting beside me. So we'll hand over to you, Richard, for your report. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, and apologies for the IT issues, but I think it seems to have been across all agencies today. Hopefully you all have a copy of the report that was prepared by Chief Inspector Scott MacDonald. So my plan is to just run over the sort of key points and then open it up to questions, if that's acceptable to the chair. Perfect. So obviously this is the report covering the period April last year up to 31st of March this year. You see that the style of the report is new, and hopefully it provides a good breakdown of the crime statistics for yourself in relation to our area command. In terms of interpretation of statistics, that's also a key part of what we do, trying to identify crime trends, ensuring we have the right people in the right places at the right times. We do compare data on previous years, however, given the effects that COVID have had, it may be some years before we're truly back to comparing year on year. So now that we are starting to move on from the COVID challenges, we've also identified that the cost of living challenges will impact on all our communities. And currently we have our team looking to continue working with our partners to protect vulnerable people within our community. In terms of our presence on the roads in the area, enforcing road traffic legislation, we know this is something that's of particular interest. We have continued to do that throughout the pandemic and also through the period of easing of lockdown, as you'll see from the report. And we've continued to work alongside the visitor management group to deal with some of the challenges in relation to the increased number of visitors. In terms of antisocial behaviour and assaults, there has been an increase in assaults as social distancing has been removed and the restrictions lifted. Obviously, licensed premises are busier, annual events are back up and running. But it is pleasing to note that in the 12-month period, we've only had one serious assault, though we have had common assaults as well as that. Fraud continues to increase. In fact, we've seen significant rise in online fraud, which I'll come to later. You'll also note from the report there's a significant increase in missing persons from last year. That's obviously something we continue to work on with our partners. In terms of our local policing priorities, they remain as road safety and road crime, antisocial behaviour, violence and disorder, acquisitive crime, protecting vulnerable people, serious and organised crime, terrorism and public order. I'll then go on to the sort of at a glance for your specific area, and go over the sort of headlines for each of the priorities. So for road safety and road crime, overall road crime offences have decreased, both in terms of the 5-year and the previous year statistics. Mobile telephone offences have decreased significantly over the 5-year average, and also decreased against the last year to date. And again, in terms of failure to insure against third-party risks, they've reduced against both the 5-year and last year average. In terms of antisocial behaviour, disorder and violence, overall antisocial behaviour has increased compared to the 5-year and the last year to date. I would have expected that with more people on the go following the COVID relaxations. Offences in relation to common assault have increased against both 5-year and last year to date. The offences in relation to serious assault have increased against the 5-year and against the last year to date. But as we are talking one, so the numbers of incidents there is quite low, but can appear quite significant given the percentage differences year on year. In terms of acquisitive crime, overall acquisitive crime has stayed the same over the 5-year average and decreased from the last year to date. In terms of housebreaking to dwelling houses, they've decreased significantly by 100% against the 5-year average, and also by the last year's date. But again, it's worth noting there's low numbers, so it's percentage-wise it seems huge, but we are talking small numbers for this area. Fraud offences have increased significantly, 322% against the 5-year and a 33% against the last year to date. And that is following the trend nationally where online or telephone type frauds have increased, and that was seen throughout the pandemic, where people moved to different types of criminality, and unfortunately that has continued. And that is something we are actively working on in relation to our prevention and intervention strategy. In terms of protecting vulnerable people, overall sexual crime has increased against the 5-year average and the last year to date. Domestic related offences have increased against the 5-year average, but decreased against the last year to date. And offences in relation to hate crime have increased against both 5-year and last year to date. But again, I'll show that it's 2 more crimes we're talking about. It's not massive numbers, but percentage-wise it does show up. In terms of serious and organised crime, over the last reporting year, offences in relation to the supply of drugs have increased against the 5-year, but decreased against activity from the year before. Obviously, there's a section in the report about counter-terrorism and domestic extremism, and it's comments from our local counter-terrorism officer, Lisa Campbell. I won't read them out, they're there for reading. In terms of the sort of more detailed report, I'll go through each section. For road safety and road crime, unfortunately the number of fatalities has increased on the last year to date. We had 3 fatalities within the last year, which was over two road accidents in the area. Drink driving has dropped, and so has speeding offences. Obviously, we continue our proactive work with Operation Cedar and Driver Engagement North, taking a preventative approach to this. Operation Close Pass has also been carried out in this area on several occasions. And in terms of the NC 500 and visitor management, we've got a robust plan in place which covers both enforcement and prevention activity, with a number of days set aside for our road policing officers to target work on that route alone, obviously to respond to some of the concerns from communities. In terms of antisocial behaviour, disorder and violence, so the statistics are there. Year to date, we have an increase in assaults. Serious assault has stayed, it's increased by just 1, and drug possession offences have dropped. What's probably worth highlighting is that we've started an 18-month pilot for a harm prevention officer role. This is a fully funded post by NHS Highland via the Highlands Alcohol and Drug Partnership. And this officer is based in our headquarters in Inverness, but his role is to link in with our partner agencies to try and reduce the risk to people involved in harmful activities, be alcohol, substance misuse, looking to divert them from that or from county lines or cocooing type activity. In terms of statistics for stop and search, you will see the number of searches dropped, but the number of positive searches remained relatively stable year on year. For acquisitive crime, as I've gone over the kind of statistics already in terms of fraud, and there has been a noticeable increase. Theft by shoplifting has also increased slightly, but again, that sort of coincides with people being back out and about, shops being open again. The motor vehicle crime has reduced. In terms of preventative activity, we continue to work with the local financial institutes in terms of the banking protocol, and that has had a number of successes within this area in the year, which has prevented people being scammed from money, and it's working well with the local bank staff all being aware of how to activate the protocol. There is a guide to keeping people safe attached to the back of this report, and obviously encourage people to read that and try and pass some of that information out to the community. And we're always there to provide further information if needed. I'll move on to protecting vulnerable people. In terms of sexual crime, I'd say it has increased. I'll come on to give some context in relation to that. For domestic crime, there was a decrease last year. Hate crime rose compared to last year, and missing persons has increased significantly. That probably is explainable by people being out and about more as well. Although a lot of that relates to looked after children who go missing for short periods of time, and we then do inquiries and find them, thankfully, relatively quickly. We are working with our partners to try and reduce the incidence of these looked after children going missing from care. In terms of sexual crime, there's a comment in there from our DCI, Donny McDonald of the Public Protection Unit. In terms of the number of incidents reported, it's probably worth commenting that we are looking to use what's known as the Murov Doctrine more, which evidences where sometimes offences wouldn't have been able to be reported. It is a way where we can use information where the person is accused of two or more separate offences connected in time and circumstances to corroborate each other where there isn't a corroboration of the single instance. So that's increased our sexual crime statistics. As they've covered missing persons. In terms of serious and organised crime, as I said, drug supply offences have dropped, although there is ongoing activity in the area. In terms of drugs offences, we're not immune to the activities of county lines and cocooing, and we continue to work with our partner agencies in relation to that. As I've already covered the section on the harm prevention officer. In terms of counter-terrorism, we don't provide statistics in relation to that, but there is information about the preventative work that is currently being done. Basically, that's all I would look to sort of highlight at the moment, and basically open it up to questions.
Thanks very much, Richard, for a very comprehensive report. Members, are there any questions for Inspector Ross? Councillor McLean, Angela.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, and thanks for coming over, Richard, at short notice. I think most of us are in the building, but in different rooms. Yeah, it's the layout of the report is interesting. It's catchy. It's got the highlights at the start, and I think the narrative at the start is useful too. I suppose there's a couple of bits, and I think it's got minuses in some of the reports where it should be plus or not a minus at all. And I wondered, I'm sure that'll get picked up because this is the first time you've reported like this. And I wondered about the detection rates. For some, they seem quite low, especially at risk of harm. Is that because the public aren't maybe giving you information, or is it lack of resources? Because I see at the start of the report, it does mention that the recent budget announcements, and this will have an effect on how promptly you can maybe deal with some of the crimes. So you're going to have to prioritise the more serious crimes and perhaps not the ones that you're maybe getting the most calls about. The other is on the missing persons. That's gone up. The looked after children, 99. That is a considerable increase, and that would take up a lot of your resources. And you did mention that you are speaking to some of the, well, it'll be the council really, organisations about how you can improve on this, because every report, it does seem to be quite high, and I'm sure my colleagues will say that the community councils, they welcome the reports and the information, but they also would like to see someone turn up at their meetings. But that is not always possible because you have got to prioritise the importance of your main role. So I suppose scams as well, there's been an increase, and what surprised me is that how, I think after COVID as well, when they get a nice phone call from somebody and they're chatting away on the phone or by email, that they are taken in very quickly. And I think your leaflet at the end showing how to watch out for scams and working with banks, how the more we can spread that news, the better. So I suppose thank you for your report, the harm prevention officer. That's a good start, 18 months from now. So hopefully it'll get funded again in 18 months time, because that'll soon fly past, even though it is a pilot. And just thank you, because COVID isn't over and there's still a lot of people that are concerned about that, and your officers will be speaking to them, I'm sure, on a daily basis. So thanks.
There's a number of points I'd answer in reply to what you've said there, Councillor. So in terms of detection rate for sexual crime, it's probably worth highlighting that quite often sexual crime inquiries are long-running inquiries to fully evidence what has taken place. So whereas this is the crimes that have been reported within that year, it can quite often take considerable time to complete that inquiries and to evidence to a sufficient standard for High Court. So whilst it's currently sitting at that, my expectation is that would rise as the inquiries are completed. So that's just an early indication. In terms of domestic crime, there's in at 77.3% detection rate for domestics. I'd say that's probably quite good actually. Hate crimes at 100%. What's worth highlighting for the missing person statistics is that is not solely for your area. That is the whole of the North Highland area command. So that's basically includes Caithness, Sutherland and Easter Ross as well. So don't be too concerned by the numbers, because it also covers other areas which also have the similar issues as well. And yes, in terms of scams, yes, it has increased, and we try to do preventive work regularly in terms of information we put out. But again, that's something we'd ask for help with in terms of the information we put out to yourselves to pass out to the community.
Thanks, Richard. Margaret?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Yes, thank you for coming along the road to attend the meeting. Hopefully next time we have a meeting, we'll be in the chamber, and so you can come and be in the chamber. I think it's much easier for you and probably for us as well. You did leave a message for me a few weeks ago, and I have phoned twice and left my number. So just to let you know that I didn't ignore it. Community councils are also expecting the police to attend their meetings. but they do appreciate the reports that they get. And actually the reports are really good because we can go through it with the chair of the community council. But I think they like to see you occasionally attend their meetings. The most complaints I get from people is about road safety. And, you know, I had to travel down to Oban at the weekend, and it's shocking the way that people are driving. I don't know, is it because they haven't been driving for a number of years, but they take such risks. Why would you take these risks with your own life? I couldn't even get home on the night because the road was blocked because of an accident. So I had to stay till the next day. And, you know, I was watching the people driving, and honest, it's just, yeah. The one thing I was going to ask you was litter. Litter used to be a crime, and you could get fined quite a bit if you dropped litter. And I got a letter from a group of children from Dingwall Primary asking if we as councillors could do something about it, and could we speak to the police. So I just wondered what, because it used to be, I mean, you just wouldn't dream of dropping something. But nowadays there's just litter everywhere, and it's such a shame when we live in a beautiful part of the world. And I don't know how you can help us with this one, but the chair is going to look into it. But we're having problems at our public toilet. It's getting not wrecked, but a mess every single night. And I wondered, was there any chance that there could be a police presence, maybe walk past or that in an evening, because it always seems to be in the evening. And you know, we've been threatened that we may have to close the toilets. Well, that's the last things we want to do. It's a public toilet, and there's many people needed to use it. But maybe a camera is the only thing that will resolve it. But I just wondered if you'd give a bit of advice on that. Thank you.
Yes, so in relation to that, the first thing I would say is for the toilet, I will ask officers to carry out patrols past there in the evenings. But as you said, that will be based on call demand and other ongoing incidents. I would suggest that the council or community council look at potential for CCTV at that location. This isn't an issue unique to Dingwall. Unfortunately, we can often find the public toilet areas get targeted. But if we have CCTV, that's certainly a route to trying to resolve that issues. So that's one what I would say for that. In terms of littering, I think actually the council have a enforcement ability now in terms of littering, but I will ask officers whilst on patrol that if they see anybody to take action. Our first action now would tend to be to ask them to go and pick it up prior to issuing fines, etc.
Thank you. Sean, Councillor Kennedy.
Yeah, hi. I don't know if everything else the other councils have heard what we were speaking about before, Richard, about the Dingwall police station maybe closing down eventually. Have you managed to speak to all the rest of the councils about that yet, or do you want to? I'm quite happy to bring this subject up at a later date. The other thing that I would like to mention, I had spoken to you about it before, and I'm still aware that there is a drugs problem going down with in some of the flats, etc., in Church Street. You know, and now that the schools are back, that there's people from the Newton room were a bit concerned about some of the antisocial behaviour and drugs-related business that was going on in the street there, and you did reassure me you'd make sure that there's a few more patrols and everything going down there. I think it's bad enough for adults to see drug dealing going on openly in the street. I think it's a hell of a lot worse when kids have maybe got to witness this at lunch times and school leaving times. Can you make sure that there's some reassurance that we are going to get some attention to this that I have identified to you and has come back from members of the public? Thank you.
You're on mute, Graham.
Sorry, I was saying that we need to be careful not to be able to identify people through what we say. So maybe we can take that offline, Richard, and have a chat about that later on. In terms of the community councils, I'd like to come back to that issue because I think over the years, the police themselves have said quite strongly that there should be an attendance at community councils as often as possible. I suspect that your resources and your priorities have changed over the last while, and maybe that is not something that's going to be possible going forward, but the expectation of community councils is still there. So if that's not going to happen for perfectly good reasons, then maybe we should make that known to the community councils that while there will be a report, it may not be able to be in person. If that is the case, of course.
So in terms of so the first issue I'll address there is the community councils. Yes, we would like to have officers attend the community councils, but as you'll see from the report, the amount of incidents we're dealing with, it is not always possible. And obviously over the last 2 years there hasn't been attendance because they've all been online anyway. I am looking at how we can increase attendance at the community councils, but what I can't do is give a guarantee of there always being somebody at them. Whilst it's not related to your area specifically, I'm also working with the councillors in the Black Isle to look at potential for a 2-yearly or twice yearly meeting between myself and the community council chairs, which may be a way of sort of having that attendance or that point of contact. So that may be something, if it works, we may look to trial for here as well, if that would be of interest. I am trying to encourage officers to attend, but if they don't attend, it is because there are other calls. In terms of the issues that Councillor Kennedy raised, we have previously discussed drugs issues, and I'm aware of them, and we have patrol plans in place. And the other issues raised in terms of our estate strategy, I would take off the table.
Thanks, Richard. That's quite clear what you're saying about community councils, and it allows us as councillors to make that well known as we go around our community councils. I also think your idea of a regular meeting with the chairs is a very good one, and I think all the community councils that certainly we're involved in would welcome that opportunity. So, in conclusion, can I thank you for not only for the report, but for the remarkable work that your officers continue to do in the area, and if you could take our thanks to them as appropriate. And thanks very much for your report today.
Thanks very much.
Okay, we agree the report, yeah.
Yep, that was my next question. We agree the report, and finally we have to approve the minutes of the last meeting of Dingwall and Seaforth Committee, which was held in February. Can we so do?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Well, thank you for your attendance this morning, members. I'm sure as the year goes on, or the years go on, we will have much longer meetings, but that was useful, and we look forward to having some engagement from the council in relation to the deferred item in due course. So thanks for your attendance, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.